Join me in this month's Plan With Me video where I am setting up the final month of 2022. The theme I have chosen to work with for December is snow globes. The inspiration for this month's theme was from this adorable snow globe I stumbled across when we were at my local TK Maxx a few weeks back. We were wandering aimlessly and rather nervously around town waiting for a phone call to see if we could head to the hospital where my second eldest daughter was in labour. Hello to all you lovely and wonderful people, my name is Lynette and welcome back to my channel. As usual, I sketch my design out in pencil first, before using a black fine liner for all the line work and then painting with watercolour. I'm working in a B5 dotted notebook from Notebook Therapy, which very satisfyingly has just enough pages left for all of my December spreads. For the globe itself, I used a compass to draw the circle. If you don't have one, you could draw around something of a circular shape. Once I worked out the size and placement of the circle, I could add the base of the snow globe to the bottom of that circle. Once I worked out the size and placement of the circle, I could then add the base of my snow globe at the bottom. Very nervously, I go over the pencil lines with the pen over the circle of the globe, hoping that I don't mess it up. And then I decided on a gingerbread house to set the scene for the snow globe on the cover page. My little house is purposely a little wonky because that's just my style. And the snow globe which I bought reminded me of a mixture between Dr. Seuss's style with a hint of Tim Burton. The curly Christmas trees reminded me of the circular hill in Nightmare Before Christmas, and also of the creepy Christmas tree short I did last year. I'm adding some oversized candy canes to frame the doorway, a cute heart-shaped window above the door which kind of reminds me of Jammy Dodgers, and then of course the curly Christmas trees. As it's such a small space that I'm working in, I don't want the trees to look too cluttered, so I'm just adding some very basic baubles to decorate the trees. And then once I finished the trees, I thought there needed to be something of interest at the bottom of the hill by the path. So I added a couple of those little red and white peppermint sweets on poles. With most of the line work done, now I'm moving on to colouring everything in, and I'm using watercolour today as per usual. I wanted quite a frosty blue for obvious reasons, so I'm using Cerulean Blue by Daniel Smith. I'm using a wet on wet technique, so I laid down a foundation of water before adding the paint. I want the blue to be a little bit more vivid around the base of the globe and to the bottom of the trees and the house. So I'm dropping a bit more paint where I want it to be less watery and then working the paint towards the top of the globe. For the crooked Christmas trees, I'm using Sap Green, also by Daniel Smith, which I'm just plopping the paint down onto the tree, not overthinking it. But my impatience got the better of me and I didn't let the sky completely dry before I started painting the trees. But I just grabbed a dry brush and tried to mop up as much of the green out of the blue as possible, and not going to worry about it too much because hopefully I can hide anything that doesn't look quite right with a white Posca paint pen when I add snow to the trees later on. For the walls of the gingerbread house, I'm using Daniel Smith's Buff Titanium and Quinacridone Burnt Orange, but only very, very tiny hint of the latter. And I'm adding the burnt orange where there will be shading, so sort of like under the gables of the roof, around the door and under the window. For the door, I used burnt orange and a little bit of Paynes Grey, also by Daniel Smith, to signify either wood or chocolate. I decided to use the sap green also for the base because then it'd look a little bit more Christmassy, and I just really love that green. I am then using this cherry red watercolour pencil from my WH Smith set that I have. For 3 reasons: I don't have the tone of red that I wanted in liquid or block form of watercolour. Why bother mixing up a shade when I have it in pencil form? And it's easier for me to do fine details with this pencil. So once I let the paint completely dry, I'm then using a white Posca paint pen to add some icing details to the gingerbread house. I have added some red baubles to the tree, but I also wanted to add some gold accent because I want to use that on the base of the snow globe. So using a gold from my Kuretake Starry paint set, I'm using that for the baubles and also for the label at the bottom of the snow globe. I'm going to add December to the label at the bottom, and then I'm going to add, of course, some snow to my snow globe. On the adjacent page, I am adding a small calendar. I have noticed the last couple of months I haven't really used the really big calendar spreads that much, so I thought, why bother? I'm gonna just make it easier for myself this month and just have a small calendar as a point of reference. I'm framing my calendar with a green border and then these swirls that are kind of like a reference to the trees that I've done in the snow globe. And then I decided that the other page looked a little bit blank, so I added some to the corners to frame my snow globe. For my next spread, I'm doing something a little bit different for this month. As I'm an adult, in age, not mentally, I don't get an advent calendar, so I decided to do this countdown to Christmas colouring spread. And instead of doing elaborate mood trackers, I'm actually going to just have a basic graph for this month, so I can still track my moods and see how I'm coping with the holiday season. But then I've still got this fun little creative outlet every day. So I have done 24 different boxes. They are 10 by 10 each, and then there is a space of 1 box in between each square, and there's 12 obviously on each page. I didn't draw all the boxes out beforehand because I wanted to do them as I go along, because some of the designs I wanted to have poking out from outside of the frame. For example, you can see the gingerbread man's foot is slightly outside of the box. So not all of the designs are necessarily Christmassy. Some of them are sort of wintry themed. So I've got like this hot chocolate, which is still a bit of a tradition in our house. We get this amazing hot chocolate from the chocolate apothecary where we live, and we have some hot chocolate before bed on Christmas Eve as the night before Christmas is read. For day 5, I'm doing a poinsettia wreath. I'm not doing an entirely accurate depiction of a poinsettia flower. I'm doing a 5 or 6 pointed star shape, and then I'm going to tuck holly leaves behind the flowers. Next up, I'm doing some elf boots and some elf legs attached to said elf boots. Elf, incidentally, is probably in one of my top 5 Christmas films. And I'm giving my elf some twirly boots with a bobble on the end. And then some stripy tights. Now for day 7, I am doing a mince pie. Now, I thought a mince pie would be something that's quintessentially Christmassy. But the other day, when I was perusing Twitter, I was a bit shocked to find out that it's very much a British thing. So I'd be really interested to know, any of my non-Brit watchers, do you have mince pies where you are, and if so, whereabouts are you in the world? If you could do me a favour and let me know in the comments section below and feed my curiosity, because I thought they were a major thing to do with Christmas. Anyway, enough of mince pies already. I've also done some holly leaves, a Christmas tree, a woolly jumper, a penguin and some cinnamon sticks, a woolly hat and a robin, which I really struggled with. I'm not very confident at drawing birds for some reason. His legs looked a bit skew-if, so I wasn't too happy about committing him to pen, so I came back to him when I was a bit more confident with my design. And then I finished the spread off with some Christmas pudding, a candy cane, an elf hat, mistletoe, snowman, Rudolph, mittens, presents, a stocking and a Santa. Next up is my habit trackers. I'm only doing 4 this month because I just haven't really been using them very much, and I just don't think I'm going to have the time to really care too much about tracking loads of different habits. But I still wanted to track some habits that I thought were the most important. So I'm giving my spread a title, and then I'm going to use snow globes as a frame for my habit tracker calendars. Colour-wise, I'm going to keep everything very simple on these 2 spreads. This one, obviously, my habit trackers. On the other page, I've done my social media trackers. I didn't bother filming that because that's just very much a personal thing for me. But by all means, let me know if you want me to add that to my videos in the future. But yeah, I'm using the Cerulean Blue for a background for the snow and the snow globes. With how I spaced out the snow globes on this spread, I thought it looked a little bit empty in the middle of the page, so I added a quote. Snowflakes are kisses from heaven. And then I just decorated the quote with a few flurries of snowflakes around it. To inject a little bit more colour and interest to the spread, I also added a border. Then, to keep everything cohesive and more aesthetically pleasing, I decorated my social media trackers with the same blue. Just a wash of blue on the top of the grids for the titles. I also added a splash of colour to the quote I have on the bottom of the page, which says snuggle up and watch it snow. And also to add some texture and shading to the snowman I drew at the top. I used some Paynes Grey for his hat and scarf, which I also then use on the bases of my snow globes on my other page. The quote that I just used is more of a pipe dream, I'm afraid, for me. The Isle of Wight very rarely sees any decent snow for any length of time. But I love the snowy weather and it's just so beautiful. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity of experiencing proper wintry weather when I lived in Germany for a couple of years. But of course, I doubt I will probably see much of it again. And despite living in Germany, I have still never ever experienced a white Christmas. I lived in Germany for about 3 years, and 2 of those Christmases we came back to the UK to be with family, and the year that we decided to stay, it didn't snow. So I think I just am destined never to experience a white Christmas. Anywho, enough of me waffling on about weather, how very British of me. My next spread is a gift tracker. I'm going to do a double page spread because I've got a lot of gifts to get. With 6 children and 1 grandchild now, that's pretty much 1 page used up on them. I'm going to keep this spread pretty simple. It's just going to have a column for who to buy for, a column for ideas of what I want to buy for people, and then a column for what I eventually bought, and then a small column on the far right to tick off if I've wrapped it or sent it. I've tried to give myself enough spaces for each person as possible, and hopefully I have enough room for everybody. But that means that I don't have a lot of space to make everything look fancy, so I just finish this off with a border and a couple of the twirly trees again at the bottom of the page. I go over the red border that I created with a Posca pen and made some white stripes to look a bit like candy canes. And then next up is my mood and moon and sleep trackers. As I previously explained, they're just basic graphs for this month. I've had these cute moon phase stamps hidden in my stash for a while now, and I haven't used them yet. So to make this page look a little bit more interesting, I thought it's a good opportunity to use them. In case you're interested, I got them from misopaper.co.uk, and I'm having to improvise by using this glass tile as I don't actually have a proper stamp block, but it does the job just as well. On the next page, I'm setting up my Christmas watch list and also my December bucket list. So once I have my columns for each of those things, I am decorating it with, of course, a snow globe and also some swirls that I've used on some of my other spreads. I'm doing a Christmas tree inside of the snow globe this time. On my Christmas watch list this year, I've got Scrooged, Nightmare Before Christmas, Love Actually, The Holiday, P.S. I Love You, which I don't think is necessarily a Christmas film, but I just love that film and any excuse really. Family Man, You've Got Mail, Frozen 1 and 2, Elf, Home Alone, Miracle on 34th Street, The Grinch, Polar Express, It's a Wonderful Life, The Smeds and the Smooths, which is this year's special that will be broadcasted here in the UK on Christmas Day, which is an animated version of the book by Julia Donaldson and illustrated by Axel Scheffler. So far they've done the likes of Gruffalo, Stickman and Room on the Broom, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm probably looking forward to watching it more than my almost 4-year-old and 2.5-year-old. One of my highlights of this year is getting to meet Axel Scheffler actually. I did fangirl a lot. But yeah, Stickman's also on my list, and Muppets Christmas Carol, Arthur Christmas and White Christmas. For my December bucket list, we've got Visit Santa, Make Gingerbread, Drink Hot Chocolate, See a Panto, Make Christmas Crafts, Movie Marathon, Wrap Presents, Make Mulled Wine, have a family dinner to celebrate the solstice, send cards, a Christmas fair, donate to a food bank, and then a birthday party for my daughter Gwendolyn, who is 4 on Christmas Eve. So on to our final spreads for this month, which is the weekly spread for the first week of December. And because the first week is only 4 days, that fits onto one page. So I have room for a quote on the adjacent page. The sizes of the boxes that I've used for my days are 16 down by 14 across, and then they have a space of 2 dots in between. I'm decorating the top of the page with a snow globe, the title of December, and then a quote saying kindness is like snow, it beautifies everything it covers. I've decorated my snow globe with the North Pole with a sign saying week 1. I'm then adding sap green again to the tops of the boxes to add some colour to the days of the week. Then with the same green for my quote page, I'm adding a green border. Then making some of the letters red and green for the title. I then added some dots on top of the green. And then once again, some black swirly scrolls. These swirls I also added to the border on my quote page, which you will be able to see at the end of this video. The quote is from The Grinch by Dr. Seuss. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. And I thought that maybe might be good to remind me when I'm stressing about everything that needs to be done and bought for Christmas. Well, that's it everybody, and that's the final setup for 2022. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but my goodness, this year has flown. I, for one, will not be sad to see this year go. It has definitely not been the most easiest or the most enjoyable, but the birth of my grandchild has definitely ended it on a high note. I hope all you lovely people watching enjoyed the theme for this month and that you find some of these spreads useful for your own bullet journals. If you enjoyed the video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also leave a comment in the comment section below. This helps feed YouTube's pesky algorithm. But more importantly, I just love hearing from you guys. If you enjoyed the content and you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep you updated on further content. Thank you all, and goodbye.